Back to the stream. Let's do a bonus stream. I'm just going to continue with what I was working on this morning. There's a lot more work to do with it. We got to get it working with the save file. We got to write more board effect abilities. What else? Do some animation work, all that good stuff. So yeah. Let me do this. Okay. So I'm not going to go through all the ads again, just Alchemortis is still available for playtesting, so go ahead and check that out. Wishlist it if you like. Let's go right into it because I want to do this. All right. Hello, Clickertail. Welcome back. Shirley, welcome. Good to see you. Welcome to the stream. Zachary, Hemi, welcome, welcome. Thank you, Snupbill, for the IDR 10,000. That's very much appreciated, as always, with the message yummers. Very appreciate that. Hello, Emerson. Look at all these yummers. Yummers in the chat. Just started work on my next game, co-op mobile-like roguelite, using your multiplayer class to help me along the way. Awesome. Glad to hear that. Hello, Ninja Link. Good afternoon to you. Welcome back. Alrighty, so let's take a look at the board inventory component. Board effect orb. So I do want to do some kind of like intro animation to this. I'm thinking, so I have this, oh gosh, show and file system. I have this sheen effect here. I really want to see if I could get this to work. So this sheen effect, if I put this like here, I wonder if it's possible to like scale this over. It would almost need to be I actually don't know if this is going to be possible. If I skew it at the same time that I rotate it. So we go like to 45 and -90. Then we go all the way back Wait, so what do I want to do? Negative 90. And then skew. Is that what I said? Or was it 90? It's hard to see what this is doing. I'm going to see if I can fake this. Actually, you know what? I probably want this to be the same size as the orb. So if I take the sheen effect here, let's put it here. We'll make this the same size as the orb. And we'll do selection only. Okay. Yeah, I think if I do a skew and a rotation at the same time. So I skew this way and I rotate to 45 that way, and then I go maybe back to 0 and back. Oh, maybe flip the scale. I don't know. I'm going to try something interesting here. It's going to be kind of like the priestess. So this orb, oh, this doesn't work. Let's see. So the orb has like these rotating things around it, which creates a nice chunky pixel effect. I want to try the same thing here. So let me see what happens. On ready, if this dot is current scene, we will do okay. So we'll call play in here. We'll tween the property of the sheen effect. We're going to tween string sprite 2D dot property name rotation degrees. We want to go to 45. Let's do over 0.1 seconds. Tween property sheen effect skew. What did I say? Negative 89, I think it was, something like that. And let's just do tween dot set loops 0 from 0 from 0. All right, let's just take a look at what that even looks like here. Second stream. Hello, Mel's, welcome. Fabled afternoon stream, yes. Hello, Gimot, welcome. Second round. Okay. That looks kind of okay. I'll make the sheen thicker. Okay, that looks kind of cool. But then we want to do tween property. Oh, you know what? The problem is that this needs to be parallel. Let's see what that does. Those need to be going at the same time. Although that effect was kind of cool. Oh, yeah. Okay, we're getting there. And now we do rotation degrees to 90. We want to chain this. Tween action. Sheen effect dot scale is equal to vector 2. New vector 2. -1, 0, 1. So we change the scale there. We go to 90 degrees and then we change the skew to 0, I think. I don't know, let's see. I'm starting to work on the visuals for my game. Any advice on how to approach that for someone who's not very good at it yet? Any good techniques? I think it really just comes down to... the fundamentals. So the fundamentals of color theory, visual consistency. I mean, I can only really speak with respect to pixel art, but choosing colors is very important. Probably the most important thing. And what else? I mean, just being consistent with the style too. I mean, maybe that's an obvious thing, but getting some color theory down and then being consistent with your style. And being consistent with the style just means like you follow the same rules that you set for yourself. So like you don't, if you're making like a 2D illustrated game, right? Like your outline sizes are all the same. You don't have something that's outlined differently than the other thing, right? The shading that you apply is consistent and looks consistent throughout all the art. For pixel art, you know, for this game, it's like, yeah, I'm sticking to a set of colors, but there's also a certain way that I approach drawing all the art that's very consistent. Like that, I use the same techniques across all the art. It's not just that they're the same colors, it's that I shade things the same way. I use the same direction for like a light source when I'm doing like the shadows and highlights. All my outlines are very consistent and the same. Another thing that's often overlooked too is like your UI margins. This is one of those things that makes your game look better almost instantly, is if you use consistent margins, right? So what you probably want to do typically is like, let's say that you've got a full screen window or whatever. You want to maintain your margins across for the bottom, top, left, right. Let's just say it's like 16 pixels. So like all of your UI elements, the closest they can be to the border of the screen is like 16, right? But then when you've got like, I don't really have any good UIs as an example for this. I mean, you know, like being consistent, like this kind of spacing here between the buttons here, like this distance should be the same across all the buttons, but then this distance from the top to the bottom should be the same between all the buttons, and then like this right margin over here should be the same as the left margin over here, right? It's one of those things where I think people tend to overlook that quite a bit, but even something as simple as just making sure your margins are nice and symmetrical and consistent can go a long way, right? But I mean, that's all like super basic stuff, but those are things that often get overlooked. With pixel art, especially, like, you know, I see a lot of beginners, they do like mixels, which is they have pixels that are bigger than other pixels. You definitely don't want to do that, but I'm sure there's like an equivalent for like if you're doing a more illustrated style. So I think consistency is like, that's the main thing you want to do, is consistency. But I don't know, maybe that wasn't that helpful. Multiple art passes over the course of development. Expected to get wrong the first time and the second. Yeah, the other thing too is like, it's like everything else in game development, it's iterative. So your art may not look that good initially, or maybe you discover a really nice way of presenting the art, and then you need to go back and update everything else so that it's consistent with that. UI file structure, do you use Atom approach? I don't know what that means. UI file structure, do you use Atom approach? I don't know. I'm gonna say no, I don't, because I don't know what that means. Oh, I know what I need to do. I need to go back to 0. Okay. The most common words the artists I've worked with at studios are cohesion, clarity, and across different products. Cohesion and clarity, okay. That makes sense. What is going on here? Did I do the rotation wrong? Oh, the rotation needs to go to 40. Oh no, it is going to 45. So rotation goes to 45. This skew goes down here. And then what I do is I make it go to 90. Well, actually, and then I change the scale to -1, -1. And then I move this skew back and I also rotate to 90. Actually, you know what I probably need to do? If I do 45 and -1, -1, I guess I actually want to go back to 0 here. Okay, well. Oh, the other thing is I'm not changing the scale again. Super helpful. All right, good to hear that. The pixel size difference translated to less. Why is that still weird? Translated to a less pixelated art format probably looks more like consistent levels of noise between assets, looking at textures and seeing different levels of detail. Yeah. Hello, Jackie Daytona. It's time for Game Dev once again. Yes, it is. Okay, there's still something weird about this. I have I have a good idea of what I want this to do. I just don't know. It's hard to figure out how to express that in the rotation in this skew. No, stop. I keep doing that. There we go. Goodness gracious. We're just going to keep playing around with numbers until it works. I almost wonder, should I even be using this skew at all? Maybe if I just do the X and keep rotating it. No, that's not going to work either. Rotate this way. Maybe that's all I need to do is just rotation and scale. So let's get rid of this skew. How was I rotating this? Negative. So tween.tween property, sheen effect. We want to tween the scale. We want to go to vector 2, new vector 2, -1, 1 dot from vector 2.1. I don't know. Let's see. What is the application? This is Godot. Okay. I guess that looks a little bit better. Actually, let's keep that one linear and let's do cubic for this one. No, set ease. Okay. Quite a lot of time to be spending on such a little detail, but that's all right. That's not even close. I actually wanted to do negative 180. Oh, do I need to do a... I need to do a dot chain here. I'm not going to have it looping in the normal version, but I do want to... I just want to be able to see it repeatedly playing. You know what? That doesn't look too shabby. That does not look too shabby. Maybe change this one as well. We're going to do a 0.5 second interval here so I can better see what's happening. Is my scale correct? From vector 2.1, what if I get rid of this ease type stuff? Maybe I don't want it to do 180. Maybe I want it to do 90. Yeah, I think the problem is... Why does that look so weird? It looks like it's snapping the scale pretty hard. Maybe I just don't do an easing on there. I think it's almost there. I mean, again, it's just such a minor thing. Okay, that should work. And then what I want to do after this chain, I want to tween the scale again. And we're going to do new vector 2, 0 in the X. Okay. The longer you spend on detail, the better outcome of what you were trying to do. Then again, if you spend too much time, it starts becoming a little bit iffy and imbalanced. Yeah, that's not quite doing what I wanted to do. So let me try to play with this. Maybe this is where I'm going to use the skew. So it's going to end up in this kind of a situation. Wait a minute. Is that how it works? Oh, wait. Yeah, maybe negative 90 is what I want. Okay, yeah. So it's like that. I skew it and scale it. Okay, I might need to do some shenanigans here. Might need to do some shenanigans. This sheen effect, we're going to change the offset here. We put the sheen effect there. Then we apply the tweens to the sheen root. Okay, sheen root, we change this. And then what I should be able to do is change the scale of the sheen sprite, and it will scale around that new origin that I've set. So this will do rotation like this to -90 with a scale of -1. And then if I change this scale, I mean, I guess I might be able to just scale this out at the same time. That could look a little bit weird, I suppose. I think maybe I just need to change, oops. Maybe I just need to change this again. This actually needs to be 4. What? Oh, offset. Maybe this just needs to be in the top corner exactly. So if I change this scale, yeah, I mean, we'll try it. I don't know if that's going to work exactly. So that's just going to go straight down, but if I lock it, that's not going to work either. Maybe the way I had it before was good. Yeah, I mean, we could do this. Does a skew help me at all here? Actually, you know what? I might just change the Y. Yeah, let's try just scaling the Y then. So anyway, we got the sheen effect. This one, new vector 2, 1, 0. Kind of interesting. I don't know how good this is going to look in practice, but using Godot to edit the sprites by itself, tend to use Piscal for everything. No, I'm not using Godot to edit the sprites, no. No, I use Asprite for the sprites. Godot is just the engine. Infinite loop detected. What do you mean infinite loop detected? It doesn't recognize sheen. Oh, this needs to be on node 2D, that's why. If I had checked the other output, I would have seen it. Okay. Asprite is a good program. Yes, it is. I like Asprite quite a bit. I am doing all the animations in Godot, though. Okay, so that's almost right. I think I need to rotate the sheen root a little bit now. And this can be faster. This probably would have been easier to do in an animation player. Oh well. I literally just thought of that. Team pirated Photoshop. Oh no. I use Microsoft Paint. Yeah, the budget for things. Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of good alternatives for sure. There are plenty of good alternatives. Don't need to be dogmatic about the tooling, just need to use whatever works, right? Release the source files you can compile yourself. Okay, there we go. All right, so that is looking pretty good, I would say. So let me figure out if I want to add some more easing to this. Let's turn this down a little bit so it's a little bit quicker. Let's turn these down a little bit. No, that easing is just not working. So I'm pretty sure that this basically, I mean, I can do like a sign instead. That should make it a little bit less extreme. But honestly, I may just take this off. I could try it here. Honestly, that's just not looking as good as linear. I'll just keep it on linear, I suppose. Okay. I joined the playtest. Super fun game. Thank you, Snooky Ball. Appreciate that. Glad you enjoyed. Actually, you know what I'm realizing? This is probably good as 0.4 and 0.2. Are you animating in Godot for an explicit reason? Yeah, so there's a couple of art direction rules that I have. Why does that look weird? Did I break something? I mean, this used to have cubic. But I was under the impression that these don't change anything if there's no ease selected, but maybe I'm wrong about that. So yeah, anyway, I have a couple of rules that are art direction rules. The first and foremost rule is that every single pixel that gets rendered to the screen has to be one of the 8 colors in the palette. So that means that I can't use transparency. It means that I can't use, I can't brighten something with glow or something. So every single pixel that gets rendered to the screen, if you were to take a screenshot and pick out all the unique pixels, you'd end up with the 8 exact pixels in the palette, 8 exact colors in the palette, I mean. So that's number one. And then the second rule is there is no frame-by-frame animation in the game. So anytime I need to do animation, I have basically 3 options. I can use tweens, I can use animation players, or I can use shaders. Those are the only things I'm allowed to use for animation. And so like that's, like I said, that's not like, there's no technical reason for that. Those are just like the rules of, I guess, what you would call the art direction for the game. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier, like those are the kinds of constraints that you need to adopt if you want to have a consistent style. At least that's what I've found, is like giving yourself explicit rules to follow is a great way to have a game that ends up feeling coherent and cohesive. So yeah, that's the reason. So if it looks like, if you're looking at me like, why are you messing with tweens when you could just go in Aseprite and draw it? That's the reason. And it doesn't matter how small the effect is. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm just not doing frame by frame animation at all in the game. Any tips for somebody who wants to make devlogs to help promote a future game? So it used to be the case several years ago that your devlogs could do well if you just did like an overview of like, hey, here's everything that I worked on, right? That is not really the case anymore. Those kinds of devlogs don't do that well. So you don't want to do like a laundry list of like, here's what I added, here's what I changed. People just get bored of that for whatever reason. That used to not be the case. Those videos used to do relatively well, but so now what I find that does well for devlogs is if you can educate somebody or present a problem that you fixed in an interesting way in your devlog, and you keep the entire devlog focused on just that problem or just that thing you want to teach, or how you thought about it, or like a game design problem. It could be any problem, right? It could be a technical problem, it could be an art problem, it could be a game design problem. And you just make your entire video about that one problem, why it was a problem, how you solved the problem, and you keep it, 5 to 10 minutes long. Those videos tend to do very well, or at least better than like the laundry list style videos. So it's really almost like you're not really using the devlog to explain the game. You're more so using the game as an excuse to explain something interesting. And then, of course, since you're showing footage of your game and everything, you can say, hey, here's the Steam page, go wishlist it, whatever. But I tend to find that those videos do a lot better. You could technically use transparency only if the transparency stuff happens before it gets to the screen. That way a shader can later snap the pixels to one of the 8 colors. Oh yeah, that's true. I mean, when I say I'm not using transparency, I mean like there's no color mixing, right? There are definitely situations where I'm like using something that's fully transparent for an effect, right? So like a shader, if I don't want the shader to change a color or whatever, and it's like an overlay shader, I just render that pixel as fully transparent, right? So like, yeah. So technically, yes, I am using transparency. It's just, it's either full transparency or full opacity. It's not, there's no color mixing, right? I remember the times you used Gunforge to teach about code components. Yeah. So yeah, that's one of my best performing videos. Is I used my game Gunforged as a way of describing how like a composition system can work in Godot, and that was like a perfect example of a devlog. Like that's kind of a devlog, kind of a tutorial, but it got a lot of exposure for my game, even though the devlog wasn't explicitly about the game, right? Okay, so we've got the sheen root, the sheen effect. Let's do sheen root visible is equal to false. Now I'm wondering if I should translate this to an animation player. Maybe not. Okay, let's just do this. So we've got this default animation player. So let's do, let's just call it in animation, 2 seconds. Okay. So we're going to change this arrow visibility. Change this to invisible. That created a reset animation, right? Yeah. Okay, so we're changing that to invisible. We're going to scale the orb up. So we'll do 0. Wonder if I should make it a little bit bouncy. 0.5. I almost wonder if I should, like, squish it a little bit. Oops. Come on, I'm trying to select all these, thank you. That may not be exaggerated enough, but we'll try it. Okay, so now the arrow. We'll change the scale here. 0, 0. 1.25, 1.25. Insert this, change this to cubic. Change this back to 0 there. Maybe this should probably start here, go forward, and then back. There we go. Okay, this is going to be a little bit weird, but I'll have to play with that animation a little bit because it's probably not going to be good enough, but change the length to 1.2. We're going to add private void trigger sheen. We're going to put this guy here. Tween action sheen effect dot scale is vector 2.1. I don't think I need to do that. Oh, I do need to do sheen effect dot visible is equal to true. Should be invisible by default. So I'll put this up here. Okay, and then all of this is good. We don't need this tween interval here. Turn this back to false. Okay. So we got this play in. We need to grab a reference to the animation player. We will do... I'll catch up with the chat here 1 second. Private static read only string name anim in is equal to in. Private static read only string name anim default is equal to default. So we're gonna play animation player dot play anim in animation player dot queue anim default, and then we need to build this thank you. We need to do a call method track on here where we need to call trigger sheen. So if I was smart, I probably would have just done the sheen as part of the animation, but I was not smart in that moment, so that's all right. Interested in how you code your auto battler system in Alchemortis? That sheen did not trigger. Oh, I need to set sheen root. Oh, this needs to be sheen root. The auto battler system is pretty straightforward. I mean, it's complex. It's a little bit complicated, but the idea behind it is straightforward, right? And the idea is basically this: you have an orchestrator that manages everything, and what the orchestrator does is it says, okay, what are all the cards that are in combat right now? What are all the cards that are on the combat board for both the enemy and the player? And then what it does is it will decide, in my case I use a timer, when to run the turn logic for everything. And so every 0.1 seconds, my turn manager says, okay, it's time to tick everything, right? And so what it does is it gets all of the cards, all the player cards in order, and in that order, it executes them one by one. So it calls an execute method on everything in order. And then it does the same for the enemy board. So it executes all the player items, it gets done with that, and then it executes all of the enemy items. And that loop keeps happening until one of the boards reaches 0 health. So after each execution, what it does is it basically does a check. It says, okay, is anyone dead? So I execute this card. Is anyone dead? No? Okay, execute the next one. Is anyone dead? No? Execute the next one. Oh, somebody died. We cut it off there. We stop executing because we don't want stuff to keep going once things have died, because, you know, you might get a heal that sneaks in there, but then you register that someone died. And so somebody dies with like 4 health left and you're like, what the heck, right? So you want to execute as early as possible. As soon as something dies, that's it. Just cut off the execution, right? And so that's very high level. The turn manager doesn't know anything about what the cards are doing when it calls execute. It just says, here you go. Here's all the context about the current combat, right? Here's everything you could need to know about what's currently happening during this tick. It's all in this object. Here you go. Execute your logic based on this object. It's all hands off, right? And then the items are responsible individually for deciding what to do when it's their turn to execute. And that's it. You know, obviously it gets a lot more complicated than that as the features that you need to require, or that are required for your game get built out. But that's the fundamental concept behind it. It's not anything that's super hard to wrap your mind around, right? It reminds me of the C++ video made for fixing frame lags because of the nodes. Oh, it was the C# video, yeah. How'd you find out that nodes cause the problem? That seemed like a Heisenberg bug. Well, I mean, it was just a matter of like, when I create all these nodes, the lag happens, and when I don't create all these nodes, it doesn't happen. Admittedly, I didn't go too deep into figuring out exactly what it was inside of the nodes that was doing that. But I was more interested in learning the rendering server, so that's what I did. What I'm most interested in is how to make content for a broader audience, as the more technical problem solving or engine related videos are geared towards other devs. Oh, that doesn't look great. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I'm the right person to ask about that. All my audience is mostly devs. Yeah, that's just not looking right. I might have to move this to the animation player if I want this to work. I might have to do something a little bit more tricksy as well. I could maybe do a shader for this. Let me think. Could I do a shader? I might be able to do a shader. Anyway. I don't know why the priestess changed, but I'm going to discard that. Let me see. I think, yeah, I mean, I think if you want to make videos for a broader audience, I think you probably have to do the Danny route, right? Those kind of game developers. But then at that point, you're like, you're more focused on making entertainment content rather than like stuff specifically about your game, which you can do for sure. But are you using Pixel Compose in Pixel Over tools or just Asprite? No, just Asprite. I've never used the Pixel Over tools or whatever tools you're referring to. Welcome, Limbo Delivery, by the way. All right, I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break. The dog needs to go out, so I'm going to go do that real quick. And then when I come back, we will continue working on this. So, BRB. All right, I'm back. A broader audience is pretty much only going to care about something if the concept visuals are entertaining to them. If you have some really cool or interesting game dev tricks to show, that could also work. Yeah, I mean, that's what I've had experience with. I haven't tried to go for a more general audience, though. My YouTube channel has always been mostly geared toward developers and stuff. So, but you know, it's like a lot of people say, you know, marketing to developers is not that good of an idea, but I suppose that's true if your goal is to get like as many wish lists as possible with your medium, right? Like if your goal with YouTube is to get as many wish lists as possible, then yeah, marketing to devs only is not not a good idea. But as a supplement to everything else you're doing, I mean, developers play games too, you know? So it's like this idea that there's no benefit to marketing to that group of people, I don't think that's true, right? So I just stick to what I know, and of course I have a publisher now, so they're going to be doing the more generalized marketing, and I can just continue to do my thing, which is more developer-oriented stuff, and then capture whatever wish lists from that audience are there. And maybe it will work. All right, so I need to actually do this sheen animation in here, I think. So I wasted a bunch of time doing a tween. I don't know why I decided I needed a tween for that, but I suppose that's okay. Oh, this is going to be a little bit weird, but that's all right. No, that's not working. Now I need to do the sheen root. Maybe I should just do a shader for this. Okay. This is just not going to work. All right, let's figure out how to do a shader for this. So let's take white, white and black. Grab this. It's not quite what I wanted. Not quite what I wanted again. There we go. Okay, so now I do a gradient tool. We want it to be radial. I gotta flip these colors. I feel like the color picking is a little bit weird, but that's okay. Is this really not going to be... Now I can't see anything. Gee dang it. All right, I'm going to try to do the shader myself. We will see how that goes, but it should be a little bit interesting at least. All right, well, there's our little mask texture. I hope that texture is not too large for the shader, man. I hope the computer doesn't choke on this. A massive amount of pixels. There's like 32 pixels there. All right. How do you know what game idea is the right? I don't think you ever know, right? Like, I don't think that's possible to know. I think you can get some inklings of whether it's right. The best one is like, if you could show people your game and you get positive responses, right? So if you say, here's my game, here's the core mechanic, here's the hook, and then here's the art style. If people go, oh, wow, that art style is really cool, or, oh, that's a really interesting mechanic, and they're not like, they're strangers, right? You don't want to show your mom and she'll be like, that's nice, honey, and then you go on and spend 5 years making it, right? But if you can like show it to strangers, put it up on itch.io or whatever, and you get comments like people say, oh man, I love this game, I want more, or the concept, the theme is so cool. Those are indicators that you are on the right track. But, you know, before even getting to that point, the other indicators might be like, are similar games in the genre doing well on Steam, right? New shader. I'm going to try to write the shader myself. We'll see what happens. We will enlist Claude's help if I can't do it, but I think I should be able to do it. Okay. So we do uniform, sampler, 2D, mask, texture, repeat, disable, filter nearest. Okay, so there's our mask texture. We don't need the frag, or we don't need the vertex shader. Okay, let's shrink this down. Okay. All right, so let's put in the mask texture. Quick load. What is it called? Sheen mask. Hello there, I'm literally after a war. Oh yeah, you're from Iran, right? Welcome. Any opinions about Steam's 30% cut and them enforcing price parity? I mean, the thing about Steam is that, first of all, they have all the customers, right? So you're basically paying a premium to get access to a larger base of people. the reason why no developers like spin up their own website to sell copies through their game, through their website, is just because you're going to reach far fewer people than there are on Steam. And Steam also does marketing work for you, right? Like Steam is not obligated to surface your game to people, but they make an effort to do that, right? Because it's in Steam's best interest to sell as many copies of the game, as well as it being in your best interest to sell as many copies of the game. So Steam is going to algorithmically do its best to find the audience that's on Steam and push the game to them, that audience, aggressively, right? So you have to think of that as like, that's not really, like Steam is actually doing marketing on your behalf, right? They're marketing your game for you to make sure that it reaches the audience that it needs to be reached. So part of the pay cut there, you can think of it as paying like marketing fees, right? You could think of it as like paying for advertisements to get people to your game, but Steam is doing that for you. Like you could be a solo developer and upload a good game to Steam, and then Steam just like puts it in front of as many people as it thinks it should. And so that's a huge, like, yeah, you have to pay a 30% cut per sale, but you don't pay anything for that advertising until the point of sale, right? So that's one thing. And then, you know, of course, Steam has all these events, like sale events that surface your game as well. So, I mean, you know, 30% is, you know, it sounds high, but you have to kind of make the calculation of like, okay, well, what are the alternatives to selling my game to avoid that 30% fee? And would I make more income if I took that alternative? And the answer is almost always no, right? The answer is almost always, you're going to make more money with the 30% fee than you would otherwise. So, you know, 30%, maybe it's a little bit steep. I think, you know, it would be nice if Steam went down to like 20 or 15% or something. But at the end of the day, the economics of it is just like, you're probably going to sell 10x minimum more copies on Steam of your game than you're going to sell anywhere else. And so the 30% fee is just like, it's basically just paying to unlock that market. So you're going to get more in terms of absolute dollars than you would otherwise, even if, you know, you're making less money per unit, right? When I think what to prototype, I like to imagine the store page first before anything. Oh, that's an interesting way to put it. Do you put the full game on itch.io, a quick demo? Yeah, you can. Like you build a prototype or a playtest version, you just throw it up on itch for free and see what people say about it. I'm trying to figure out why in viewport my tile map layer jitters when moving, like it jitters. Yeah, I don't have any experience of putting tile map layers in viewports. It's pretty crazy, bro. Imagine not having internet for 3 months. I didn't have internet for a week one time and I thought I was gonna die. Uniform, vec 4, sheen color, source color. Look at my fade shader. Palette fade down. Oh, that doesn't really help. Let's do vec 4 text color. Texture color is equal to texture UV. Vec 4. Let's just do float mask value is equal to texture mask texture UV. We'll just take the red channel. I need to look at, I don't want to use a branch here. I need to get better at this. Built-in functions. Here we go. Linear interpolate between. Hermite interpolate. Okay, step. If B is less than A, 0. If B is less than A. Color.rgba is equal to texture color. Oh, I want to do mix. Texture color with sheen color. And I want to do mult. Okay. That's not quite right either. If B is less than A, then 0. What in the heck? Okay. Let me think about this. So I want this to be like a range. I want this to be like a band. So I need to define a range of values. I basically need to take the current progress value and take the lower range and the upper range, and then do multiple step operations against that, I think. So let's do 0.05 here. Float, I don't know, lower mult, and then here, upper mult, plus progress diff, and then this would be mult times upper mult, something like that. Methinks that didn't work. Why are shaders so confusing? I'll have to step through that logic. Part 2, let's go. Hello, Helkios. Regarding Steam, they also provide a lot of infrastructure you can just use at no additional cost. Right, that's true too. I mean, you think about the whole like friend infrastructure, they have gifting, so if you have a friend that wants to buy you the game, they have all the localization infrastructure as well. Do you think a Claude subscription is worth for help with coding? And my responses are way too low. Yes, I pay the $20 a month Claude subscription, and I basically never hit my usage limits. I'm not using it a lot, but when it comes time for me to like brainstorm a new architectural approach to something, actually, you know what I've been using it a lot for? I've been using it a lot for like checking that my changes don't have unintended side effects. So I'll go in and I'll change a bunch of things about like how the ability system works, for example. And I'll do my own testing, you know, and it seems right to me, but then I'll say, hey, Claude, look at the diffs in my Git history right now. Look at the changes that I made to the ability, and then like look through the code base and see if there are any unintended side effects. And sometimes it'll be like, no, this is logically equivalent. Everything works the same. Sometimes it'll be like, actually, the behavior is different, but the new way you implemented it actually fixed a latent bug. And then sometimes it'll be like, no, you forgot this case over here. So I've been using it a lot for that purpose because it's really good at finding those kinds of things. It's just an extra level of like, it's almost become like an extra level of my testing process. So I do the implementation, I test it myself, and then I ask Claude, hey, what's going on here? And it will catch stupid errors too, like, oh, you meant to call this function and you accidentally called this one. Like that just happened to me last night when I was working on this board stuff. And that would have been the kind of thing where I probably would have gotten tripped up on that for like 15 or 20 minutes being like, what the heck is happening here? Just because I called the wrong function, you know? So yeah. Like how itch only has a 10% cut and even that's optional. Yeah. But the thing is, itch has a small, much lower audience. The first day I had internet was someday in September of 2017. My childhood, I was raised without internet, but hey, that never stopped me from having a passion for video games. Well, that's cool. Especially video game development, yeah. Think you can do wave pattern in the shader? Yeah, I don't know. I gotta get better at shaders. Do you have any vid streams deep diving into Gunforge projectile system? I'm trying to build a highly modular composition-based system for projectiles at the moment, which has been good so far, but was curious. I mean, that's basically the approach that I took. So the way that I could do it is I defined like a general bullet component. And the bullet component is just like, you know, it just contains all the stats about the bullet, like what damage it's carrying and so on and so forth. And then I would implement like subcomponents in that bullet to change how it behaves. So I mean, that's basically the approach that I took. And if it's working for you, then I would say, yeah, it's probably fine. The one thing about that approach is that if you're making like a bullet hell game, it might become a little costly to create all those bullet scenes with all those components. You could still do a composition-based design in like a pure code approach though, where you take your base bullet and then you augment the bullet with like all these components that change how it behaves. But yeah. Also, I've seen message delay. Oh yeah, the messages don't pop up automatically when you send them. I have to actually click on the message in OBS to highlight it. So that's intentional. Because like I'll be in the zone, I'll be focusing on something. I don't want the messages to pop up on screen until I'm ready to address them. Because it's nice, you know, I think for people watching, like it's nice to have the comment on screen while I'm addressing it instead of it appearing automatically and disappearing. And then when I get to it, I respond to it later. Anyway, is this the right approach? So let me think through this logic here. So we sample the texture. So we've got progress 0. We sample the mask texture. Is that even pure white? I don't even know if that's pure white. It doesn't look pure white, does it? It's not pure white. That's kind of a bummer. Anyway, we'll figure that out later. So I'm sampling the texture color, which is fine. That's just the base color of the orb behind. Also, I need to shave off an extra set of pixels there. Or no, I should probably just use... If it's pure black, I should render nothing. Okay, anyway. Okay, so then we're taking step. Step returns 0 if B is less than A. Why is it like that? Wouldn't it make more sense if it said if A is greater than B, return 1? Why does it do the less than case first? That's a little bit confusing. So if this value is greater than this value, it returns 1. So we're looking at the mask value, which is the red channel. So this is going to be close to 1. So we're saying let's just call it 1. So the value of 1, what I want to do is I want to have a band. So I want to have a band sweeping across the thing. So there has to be a range. And so what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, is 1 greater than 1 minus the progress diff, which actually this doesn't need to be in parentheses. So if our progress is 0, and we subtract progress diff from it, which is 0.05. So this mask value, if it's 1, this should return as 1. So then we're doing the upper bound. I don't even know if this is right to say upper, but then we say, okay, is 1 also greater than 1 minus progress plus progress diff, and that will be false. I think maybe I need to reverse this actually. So in order to check if it's in between the range of 1 minus progress diff and 1 minus progress plus, so let's just assume this is 0 for now because progress is 0. So if the mask value, this red channel, is 1 and it's greater than 0.95, this is going to return 1. But then we want to check if it's less than the upper bound. But right now it's checking if it's greater than the upper bound. So I actually need to reverse this. Okay, so what do I want? If both of these return true, aka 1, I want to multiply those together. So I want to multiply those together because that becomes essentially an and, right? I want to say if this is true and this is true. And the only way that I'm going to get 1... Or the only way, like, if I multiply both of those together, the only way that I get 1 is if both of those are 1. Okay, so then what I do is I say, okay, if it's within that range, then we use that as the linear interpolate here. I'll just pull this out to be explicit here. So we take the texture color and the sheen color. So we lerp this mix, I think, is basically just a lerp, right? Oh, it's here. Linear interpolate between A and B by C. Okay. So we're going to say, I want to take the sheen color, lerp it to the texture color by... Yeah, this is backwards too, I think. Because if this is 1, that's essentially saying set that pixel to the sheen color, because it's just gonna, it's basically just, this is basically binary. This can only be 0 or 1. So we're gonna say if it's 0, we're gonna stay on the texture color. If it's 1, we're gonna stay on the sheen color. That's not doing anything. What the heck, man? Did I do something wrong? I'm going to get rid of this progress term here. That's not doing anything. We'll keep progress at 0. Actually, let's put it like 0.25. Am I still doing this wrong? Is it lower mult minus upper mult? I don't think so. Step should return either 0 or 1. If B is less than A, return 0, which means that if A is greater than or equal to B, it returns 1. So if my mask value is greater than or equal to this, that's going to return 1. Let me do something here. We're going to say color is equal to lower mult. Let's just do vec for lower mult. Can I do this? .rgb and then 1. Dang it. Oh wait. No, this is not a vector. What am I doing? Whatever, we'll just do it the hard way. So why is it always white? Mask value is greater than 1. What? If mask value is greater than 1 minus progress. So if this is saying if mask value is greater than 0.95, we're going to set the lower mult. But this is 1. This is rendering as white. That shouldn't be rendering as white. Am I misunderstanding how step works? Am I wrong? If B is less than A, return 0. Okay. I don't know. Let's just reverse this. Am I doing something wrong here? What am I misunderstanding about that? No, I'm good. I'm good. I just need to figure it out. I feel like I'm reading it correctly, right? If B is less than A, return 0, else return 1. Oh, I guess I am misunderstanding it. No, I'm not. A is greater than B. Oh, A is greater than B. It's the same thing as B is less than A. This is confusing the heck out of me. Why is it this way? Okay. Whatever. If B is less than A, so we'll just... Yeah, we'll just keep this here. Okay, if mask value is less than this value, we'll return 0. But then we want to do if the upper mult is less than mask value. So let's do upper mult. Okay, we got it. So it's a little band now, which is not super thick, but we can turn this up. There we go. Probably turn it up even more. I don't know why that step function, it just always messes with me. Now we probably want this progress to actually be able to go past 1 so that it disappears naturally. We can actually make it go to like 1.2 and we can do like negative 0.2 just to add some padding here. Now the problem here though is that if it's black, if we sample a black pixel, we always want it to be we always want it to be 0. So maybe we'll do like black mult is equal to step. I'm getting some step practice in, that's what I'm doing. So we're going to say if the mask value is less than 0.001, we will multiply this by black mult. That's not actually quite the way that I want it to do. I actually need to preserve black. So what I probably want to do instead is let's actually use transparency for that instead. And I'll read the alpha channel of the mask value, and then we'll use that as just a straight multiplier on the linear interpolate. I think that will work, if I'm not mistaken. Oh boy. Can I move this? How do I move the selection? Okay. Okay, we're gonna change this. Let's just do vec4 mask color. Okay, and then we'll do float mask value is equal to mask color.r. And then our alpha mult, we could just do, let's just do this. Instead of times black mult, we'll do times mask color.a. Oh, I still do I still want the black mult? Now the part that's confusing me is maybe this actually needs to be higher. Oh yeah. I might fudge around with this a little bit. Can I pick like an in-between value here? edit my own gradient. Okay. So it drops off some of those pixels a little bit later. Now, ideally, I'd be able to just modify this so it's within the range 0 to 1, but I don't really feel like doing that. I think that's fine. Okay, we did it. Could you do high-res shaders on a pixelated canvas? So you render the game at 360p, could you do a shader that's 2x res? Yes, in Godot, you can do that. So you render the entire game. Actually, I was playing around with this the other day because somebody said, hey, Alchemortis would be cool if it had a CRT shader. I think CRT shaders are a little bit overdone. I don't know if I want to do that, but, you know, I was curious. So I tried a CRT shader earlier in development. The problem is because the canvas resolution is low, the chromatic aberration of a CRT shader would only go in like the whole pixel increments, right? So it would create an effect that was far too strong and hard to look at. And so what I was thinking is, well, if I render the game in a sub viewport at like 360 or 640 by 360, but then I scale that up to like a different resolution, like 1280 by 720, and then I apply the CRT shader to that such that the chromatic aberration applied by the CRT shader would be smaller, because you would have, essentially you would have 2 pixel increments for every 1 pixel of the base render, right? So every base pixel in the viewport would become a cluster of 4 pixels in the higher resolution, right? It would become 2 by 2. And so that means that I could do a smaller CRT shader effect, right? In theory, that should work. The problem is I wasn't able to get it to work, but in theory, that should be possible. Getting those 10,000 steps a day, yeah. I feel like I was So if B is less than A, B less than A is equivalent to A being greater than B. I think that's the thing that I was like tripping up on. It would be, instead, it would be if A is less than B, it returns 1. So this is essentially saying if A is the greater of the two, if A is the greater of the two terms, so this first term is greater than this one, then it returns 0. If A is less than B, it returns 1. Okay. Okay, I don't know why they put it this way. So basically, the way to understand step is just like, it returns 0 if A is greater, it returns 1 if B is greater. Which makes sense, right? So you could think of it as like, the first argument being greater is 0, the second argument being greater is 1. I don't know, I think it's just this form of presenting it is like, not... Like, it makes sense, but it would be easier if it just said, like, in here, hey, if A is the greater of the two arguments, return 0. If B is the greater of the two arguments, return 1. That's basically all it is. It's basically just... So I was just getting tripped up by this form, because it, like, puts the second term first, and then less than, and then it returns 0. It's like, what? Anyway, yeah, so that's easy enough. That's easy enough. Whichever one is greater, it just returns essentially an index representing which term is greater. Okay, anyway, so that makes sense. Goodness gracious. Okay, so now I've got a sheen shader. Now we got to animate that into the game. Now I could get bonus points by changing the color of the sheen as it goes, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. You're welcome, Limbo Delivery. I think their logic might have been if A and B are in ascending order, then true 1, else false 0. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. The problem is the false case is 1, and it is very trippy. Right. Yeah, the false case is 1. Yeah, maybe that's what was tripping me up, right? But I think it makes more sense when you think of it as like it returns whatever argument index is greater, right? It makes sense when you think of it that way. I don't know if that's actually the proper way to think about it, but if you've got an argument list, the first argument is index 0, the second argument is index 1, it basically returns the index of the argument that is the greater of the two. But if they're equal, then it returns... I mean, I guess it doesn't... if they're equal, it returns 1, I guess. Anyway, we have it figured out now, I think, until the next time I use step 2 months down the line and I forget how it works again. Okay, so this looks much nicer than what I was trying to do with a sprite. So now we have to actually animate this. That's a lot of work for just... Anyway, that's fine. So what are my progress values? Negative 0.2 to 1.4. I wonder if I'd be better off just doing like negative 2 to positive 2. That would probably be easier to reason about. I think the more proper thing to do would be to compress the progress range or adjust the progress range to exclude this little padding here. But anyway, let's just make it 0.2 and 1.4. Okay, anyway. Let's grab the orb. So actually I can just animate this in the animation player. So we go in. Get rid of this. Go to the orb. We animate the progress value here. Do this. This becomes 1.4. Yeah. All right, let's see what happens. Actually, can I do this? Oh, it's not going to play. Object reference. Oh, I got rid of the sheen root and sheen effect. So these got to go away. Goodbye. Perhaps it was made at 2 a.m. Now no one can change it because it would break everyone's shaders. That's true. The function works fine. The docs are trippy though. Yeah. Okay, look at how good that looks. I wonder if I should just periodically trigger that sheen animation just for fun. I think that looks pretty nice though. It better look nice. I put so much work into that. Okay, let's see what it looks like in the game now. I was thinking about, actually, I might just play that animation whenever the board is open. Oops, I just freaking closed my window automatically. Gotta love that. Okay, so if I do this, oh, it's not playing the in animation, so I gotta handle that now. I don't really need this anymore. Let's just do play in. So yeah, I'm thinking about playing an out animation for those when the inventory is collapsed, and then when the inventory pops back out, show them all again. Just more excuses to show the animation, you know? So you can imagine opening this and then it pops in and then you can see it. So we need a tooltip for this as well. Oh, it's playing it's playing this shader on all of them. I forgot to set this to local to scene. So it is a UI element. Yeah, it's a UI element. So it's designed to, you know, like you've got your board. So for context, for anyone that hasn't been watching, we are adding board growth effects. So these are like passive bonuses that get added whenever you upgrade your board. And these will have things like, the only thing I have implemented is this board growth bonus, reduce cooldown by 0.3 seconds. And you can hover over these to see like what is that actual, what is that benefit, right? So you can see all the cells that it affects, as well as what cards it's actively affecting. And then I'm going to add a tooltip when you hover over this that will display the effect. That shader feels like it's moving too fast for the animation. I don't think so. I think it's fine. I think if it was slower, it wouldn't look as good. I mean, we could try to slow it down a little bit though. Let's see. Let's just keep it linear, I suppose. I mean, that's a little bit slower. We'll see what it looks like. I'm going to find all kinds of excuses to play that little animation. So there's the slower version. I think it's a little bit too slow now. Okay, I think that looks better. So it's a little bit slower than it was. Cool. So tooltips, what else? I need to save this to the save file. I need to write more board effects, just generally speaking. Probably should get upwards of like 20 or 30 of them. Probably have more by release, but there needs to be a good variety, at least initially. I want to play the animations in and out, so when I close the inventory, I want those to pop out. I guess they don't really need to pop out right here because that's so fast, but maybe when they pop back in, they could pop back in here. Probably tooltip is the more important thing to work on right now. Yeah, we'll probably do that. Oh, so many tooltips. I have so many tooltips. There are so many tooltips. Trying to think, how do I actually want to implement the tooltip though? I'm actually going to delete this sheen effect. Okay. I think he likes tooltips. Remember in the early versions of the playtest, there were no tooltips? Those were fun times. Okay, I'm going to take another quick 3-minute break, and then when I come back, we will see what we can do about the tooltips, or maybe I'll find something else that I want to do. But anyway, be right back in just 3 minutes. All right, I'm back. Sorry for the delay. Tooltips. Tooltips. I'm going to see how I did the artifact tooltip. I may do something similar. Artifact display. Artifact container. So I've got the artifact tooltip here. I mean, the easy thing to do would be to just put the tooltip under this indicator component. Because the indicator component knows when a board effect is being hovered. So this component knows when a hover happens. Now, the only thing that I'm kind of like iffy about is that I'm just going to end up with a bunch of useless tooltips hanging around in the tree because all of the boards are not going to have, not all of the boards are going to have these board growth things. It's only the player board. I did make the system so that it supports whatever board that I want to support, but that was mostly for like the combat log stuff that I'm working on, so I can show the bonuses again in like the snapshot view or whatever. So I don't know if I really want to put a tooltip on like every board that's going to be unused. I mean, I guess I could lazy load it, I suppose. I could stuff it in this resource preloader and then create an instance of that tooltip the first time that a board effect gets added. That would probably work. Maybe I'll do that. So we need a canvas layer at layer 22. The question is, how am I actually going to display this information? I still have to do that. Like, I need to go to the grow board container. I still need to show like the text here as well. Well, we can worry about that later, I suppose. Okay, let's just duplicate this then. Okay. We'll move the board effect tooltip there. Get rid of this script. These need to be translated. Don't need that. Tooltip label, title label, okay. Let's add a canvas layer. Or make this the scene root. Set this to layer 22. And I can just change the visibility there. Okay. So we grab a reference to a board effect tooltip. Resource preloader.instantiate scene or null. Board effect tooltip. We'll just add child. Board effect tooltip. Okay. Board effect tooltip dot visible. Well, actually, let's create like a show. And then we'll do visible equals false, set process false, public override void ready, set process false, visible equals true, set process true. Okay. Private void update tooltip position. Grab a reference to the panel container. Panel container dot update tooltip position. Okay. Public override void process. Panel container dot update tooltip position. I don't think I need to call that deferred, actually. Okay. I think he likes tooltips. You heard about tooltips, but have you heard about tools advice? Sorry, 1 second. Okay. Time to make dinner. Have a great night. All right, thanks, Ninja Link. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoy your dinner. Anyway, let's see. Board effect. So I need to show tooltip information. How am I going to do this? I mean, I could just see if this even works. Okay. Let's see if that even works, first of all. How shocked the information was, yeah. Stun locked. I got some information in the, or some feedback in the Alchemortis feedback channel, and I was reading through it. I probably shouldn't have been doing that, but sometimes the feedback just hooks me, you know? Sometimes the feedback just hooks me and I need to think about it. So this works. It's not showing the right information. So that's the thing. It's like, I don't really know. I don't really know what I'm going to do about that, because most board effects are probably going to just add an ability to something. But there could be board effects like there could be board effects that are more like game changing, right? So there could be one, for example, where it, you know, it says if there are at least 4 2x2 items in this row or whatever, then I don't know, sell price is increased for all items by like 1 or something. You know what I mean? Like it could be like game changing stuff. It doesn't necessarily have to be directly affecting the items themselves. Or something like, yeah, I don't know. So anyway, the problem is I don't really have a generalized way of getting like what the tooltip content should be. Which I suppose I should just implement in the base board effect here. So let's just start doing this with translation first. Adds the following ability to all items in this row. Group. Translation groups. I'll create maybe a different translation group. These translation groups don't do anything. I'm trying to make potential translators have an easier time navigating the file. So those translation groups, all it does is it puts a header, a little comment that says, here's the ability explanations. And then everything that's part of that group just gets put here, right? So the groups are just purely organizational for the translation file. So I'm just trying to keep it somewhat organized so that whoever needs to go through the translation file, at least it's a little bit organized instead of just a bunch of strings being thrown everywhere. Ability, row. Oh, I need to do the plural form. Yeah, so let's do the plural form. So following abilities to all items in this row. Okay, ability. let's just do, shoot. Let's rename some stuff here. Board growth, ability, let's do board effect. Ability prefix. Then this would be board effect row tooltip prefix. Okay, adds the following ability to all. Now the problem is if I say, well, just one item, I'm gonna need a, I don't really have a way of supporting multiple plural forms. Like if there's, like if I said, adds the following ability to one item in this row, adds the following abilities to one item in this row, adds the following ability to all items in this row. So there's like potentially 4 different forms, which is kind of not fun to think about, but we will burn that bridge when we get there, I suppose. So I think what I'll do is maybe I'll just make a virtual method. Public virtual string get tooltip BB code, something like that. Yeah, that's probably fine. Get tooltip BB code. And so by default, what I will do is I will grab abilities is equal to get unfiltered composed abilities. Var tooltip prefix is equal to row index is not equal to null. We're going to do tr board effect row tooltip prefix. Oh, I need to do trn. The plural message no. Whatever, we'll just do translation server dot translate plural. Now, wait a minute. Oh. Oh, it's just the same key both times. Gotcha. So this can be trn. And then the count is abilities dot count dot length. Column tooltip prefix. Okay. So there's our prefix. Is equal to abilities dot select x dot get description. Okay. Var joined is equal to string.join. The separator is /n. We're going to do tooltip prefix ability descriptions. Does that work like that, or do I need to do this? I don't know. We will see, I suppose. Or it would be, rather, it'd be this. We'll see if that works. Return description utils dot highlight keywords joined. So this is a virtual method, which means that I can override this in whatever base board effect class I need to. But we'll go in here now, board effect, we're going to say private rich text label. I think it's called tooltip label, if I'm not mistaken. Why does that keep opening? Stop doing that. Tooltip label. That needs to have clip contents off. I'm going to make that fix in my artifact tooltip as well. Actually, I wonder if they fixed that. Maybe I don't need to do that. Whatever. Turn it off anyway. There was an issue previously where the text shadow would be cut off by the tooltip label, but that's all right. I don't think it's an issue in this particular case. So show tooltip for board effect. We are going to say tooltip label.text is equal to board effect .get tooltip BB code, and we will see if that works. Your video highlighting the efficiency gains on using rendering server calls directly was useful as heck. Awesome, glad to hear that. Welcome, Foha. It's a good idea. Oh wait, let's see. Sasquatch Mark, I moved my VS Code sidebars to the right to prevent code jumping around when open collapsed. Highly recommend. Oh, 1 second. I have to take this call really quick. BRB. All right, I moved my VS Code sidebars to the right to prevent code jumping around when open collapsed. I don't know what you mean by code jumping around. VS Code sidebars, these things here? I don't know exactly what, I just don't understand exactly what problem that's solving. Maybe it's something obvious that I'm just not thinking about. But welcome, Sasquatch Mark. Good to see you. Good to have you here. How do you learn GDScript well? You just learn by doing. You just have to keep practicing, keep working with it, and it's going to be difficult. This is my favorite piece of advice for people that are having trouble with programming is like, I think a lot of it is just like a framing issue. It is hard, and it's going to be hard, and you should expect that you're going to hit walls, and that the learning comes through getting over those hurdles, right? Like you can't get to the point where you're like an expert programmer or an expert in using the Godot engine or an expert in GDScript without hitting a bunch of those hurdles and learning how to get through each of them. Because that's how you build the experience, right? So the only difference between me and my level of skill programming and somebody who's brand new is just time. That's the only difference. Like, I'm not doing anything magical. It's just I have a whole bunch of experience behind me. that makes it easier to build the kind of things that I'm building compared to somebody who's new or newer, right? So yeah, you learn by doing, you learn by encountering hurdles and getting over them, and you repeat that ad nauseum until you get better. No worries, sorry to distract. The sidebar for the files, I'm guessing, collapsing them moves the code panel to the left more. Uncollapsing it moves the code to the right. Keeping the sidebars on the right means the code reads the same horizontal position regardless. Oh, I see. I see. Do you not use AI at all? No, I use AI sometimes. I don't like to use the AI for the kind of stuff that I'm doing where I'm just building new features into my game for a couple of reasons. The main reason being that I don't want to lose knowledge of my code base. Like, I don't want to... anything that the AI does that I'm not doing is something that I don't have an intimate understanding of, right? Even if I review the plan, even if I review the code, I have a different level of understanding when the AI does that versus if I do it, right? And the most important thing, like, look, if I could have the best of both worlds, if I could have the code written instantly and have an intimate knowledge of the code base, then I would do that. But I don't think that's possible. Like, the act of writing the code and solving all the problems that come up with building your own systems is what causes you to absorb all of the knowledge about your code base that you need to have. And I lose that if the AI does it, right? Even if the AI does exactly the same thing that I would do, I'm still losing something. So that's the number one reason. The second, more minor reason is that it's just fun. It's fun to write code and to solve problems myself. It's more fun to do that than to like babysit an AI and make sure that it's doing all the right things. But I do use the AI in specific circumstances, like brainstorming architectural issues or like spot checking new features that I do to see if the AI picks up anything that I missed or that like an edge case that I missed. I use the AI to write shaders a lot of cases because I just don't feel like putting in the effort to writing shaders. So yeah, that's it anyway. Oh, that doesn't look right to me. System.link.enumerable plus array select iterator grave, whatever it's called, to open brackets game.data. Yeah, that's not right. That's not right. So I think it's probably because I did the params wrong in here, wherever that is. Oh, it's right here. I'm looking right at it. Okay, let's see if this works. I have to build the translations too. Okay, we'll go to the board grow. Okay, that seems to be working. Cool. So let's build the translations now. That will regenerate my file. You can see that it's deleted something that I renamed, and then it put all those strings in the board effects here with the plural forms as well. So now if I go back in, we should be good to go. Did you make all of your own art assets? I did. Everything that you will see in Alchemortis was done by hand, by me, painstakingly. The only thing that I didn't do with respect to the art style is I didn't make the color palette. I got the color palette off of Low Spec. It's an 8-color palette. It's called Witching Hour. If you go to Low Spec and you look up Witching Hour, you'll actually see a screenshot of Alchemortis as an example. But yeah, that's the only thing that I didn't do myself with respect to the art. Everything else is myself. Pixel by pixel. All the art, I mean, all these items here, everything. And there's still more more items to come as well. Okay. This is looking pretty good. I only have one board effect in place, but I already love, like, I can see the strategies coming up, because if you can get an item to span multiple rows, and I'm realizing now that this actually solves it partially makes large items even more appealing now, because a small item is not going to be able to span multiple rows and get the benefits of both of these things, right? So this has the reduce by 0.3 seconds twice. So this is typically 4.9. Now it's 4.3 seconds cooldown, because both of those are affecting it. So if you've got a large card, it's going to be able to span more of the rows and get all of the benefits, which is awesome. And then if I grow up, that's going to pop up there, that board effect. And so I can actually have a card like this, which has the benefits of all of those at the same time. Cool. Thank you, Foha. Appreciate that. You're streaming late. Yes, I am. Some of your effects are driven by code like the Cauldron Highlight Shine. Yes. So I mentioned this earlier on the stream, but it's worth mentioning again because people are hopping in and out. So I have a couple of, like, it sounds pretentious to say like art direction rules, because like I'm not really doing like art direction, but I have a couple of rules as it applies to the art direction. One of those rules is I'm not allowed to use frame by frame animations. So everything that's moving on the screen, everything that's animated, is animated either with tweens or with like the animation player. The characters are animated using animation players as well. So all these characters here. None of this is doing frame by frame animation. It's just like cut out sprites with each body part animated in engine with keyframes. One of the other rules I have is that every single pixel on the screen, whatever the final pixel result is, it always needs to be one of the 8 colors in the palette. So I can't use like transparency or anything like that, which creates some interesting situations like fading out the map and whatnot. And what else? I think those are the 2 major rules. I thought there was 3 rules, but maybe not. No frame by frame animations. Strict 8 colors. What was the other one I was going to mention? I don't remember. All good though. I recently shifted to Godot, was working as tools engineer for Unreal, making my first indie game. Any suggestions for Godot? First of all, welcome to Godot. Always good to see more Godot people. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, you're a person with experience, so I think you're going to find it to be relatively easy. I mean, making games is a lot different than making software, like normal software, but it's not that different. And I don't think you're going to find Godot to be any more or less complex than any of the tools that you've created or that you've worked with. So I don't know if I have any tips in particular for you. It's just, I would say, you know, read the documentation, take a look at some of the example projects, just get a feel of what's all happening. But otherwise, you should have a pretty easy time. I don't know if I could give you any specific advice on how to start, other than just start, which is not super helpful, I guess, but that's all right. Why did you choose the rule of no frame by frame hand-drawn animation? Well, I didn't want to do frame by frame animation because it would have created a lot more art effort for me, and there's already a ton of art effort. So that was like the practical reason for it. But then, you know, like in order to maintain visual consistency, like it would look weird if like some items had frame by frame animations and some didn't. So the rule is mostly just as a way of enforcing consistency. So initially it started just because I was lazy and didn't want to do it. But in order to maintain the visual consistency, it's just a rule now. Like, I can't do it, right? Otherwise, there will be parts of the game that just look different than other parts of the game, which is what I don't want. I recently shifted to Godot, was working as a tools engineer for... Oh, wait, I already read that one. Maybe seems... Bro, maybe seems kidness, but you are my pattern. I have no idea what that means, but thank you, Phoenix. I appreciate that. I'm stepping so back from Godot, I need to get back in the tutorial hell Godot lessons. I love Godot. I'm a very big fan of Godot. You're welcome, Foha. You're welcome. So there's still a bunch. I mean, this is... I've been working on this feature for like, I don't know, probably like 12 or 15 hours total now. And there's still more to do. Like, this is not working with the save system, so we've got to persist these. I've got to make more of those effects. I still want to animate them back in when they come in. So that would be... Maybe I should write all this down. Oh, goodness. It takes forever to scroll across. Okay, so we have art and animations. I also want to do animate the board orbs back in inventory. Save file support. What do I need to do for that? I think it's just a matter of... I just extend the pattern that I usually use for this. So the problem is, how do you go from a concrete like C# instance to the save file? And the way that I'm typically doing that is by just storing the ID and then mapping a string ID to a constructor function, essentially. So I have the board effect factory. This is essentially just a dictionary that contains an ID for the class, and then it just returns a function that returns a new instance of that class. And this ID here, this will be present on everything. The other thing is I might need to store some persistent state, but then I can leverage the persistent state. So really it's just a question of, yeah, just a matter of getting that into the save file to begin with. The one thing that's a little bit weird is it's going to have to be a per board configuration, so I need to look at each board and save that probably in like the board save model. So it probably would do something like JSON property name, board effects, and then this would be like public list, board effect model, board effects, get set, initialize that. So I'd populate that board effects. The board effect model would contain the ID of the board effect as well as what row or what column it's in, and also any persistent state probably. And then that should be all the information I need to restore that data. So yeah, that should be fine, I guess. Anyway, I mean, I might as well just leave that there. Let's see. I don't care that that's unsaved. Thank you, though. So I'm just going to leave this saved in a bad state here, so the next time I come to this, I know to start here. Are you planning to make more Godot courses? Hello, Wi-Fi'd? To be honest with you, I hope that I don't need to make Godot courses again. And I know that's probably disappointing if you like the courses, but my hope is that Alchemortis will be successful enough that I can just focus on making games, at least for the next year or two. Like, I'm hoping that Alchemortis is like at least successful enough that I can do this for another 2 years or something. And during that time, that's all I want to do is just make the games. That doesn't mean I'm not going to do more Godot tutorial content. I have plenty of Godot tutorials that I want to make for the YouTube channel and stuff, but I hope that I'm not in a position where I need to make courses again, because it's really not that fun to do. And yeah, I don't know. I know that's probably disappointing if you like the courses, but I'm not saying it will never happen again, but it's something that I'm not really eager to get back into, if that makes sense. But I want to make clear that I want to do more Godot like educational content. It's just not going to come in the form of like 20-hour long courses. Like I'd much rather do a 10 or 15 or 20-minute YouTube video showing something specific and then just do that a bunch of times. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's going to be it for the stream part 2 today. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for all the new people joining. It's not the usual stream time, so I was expecting to see some new people, but if you want to continue following along with Alchemortis development, I'll be back at it tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. I'll be streaming on Twitch and YouTube like usual. The Alchemortis playtest is still open for the next couple of days, so if you do want to try the game, you can join the Alchemortis playtest here with the request access button. Give it a wish list if you don't mind. I would appreciate that. 20-minute shader tricks that you'll find. That's a good idea. What's that Kanban tool? Amazing stream. Thank you. It's Obsidian with the Kanban community plugin. Okay. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your support, and I will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Okay. Bye-bye.